Ever since 2020, I've been raising chickens here on this farm. And one thing I've noticed is that over time, they lay less and less eggs. However, there is some things that might be causing this other than just them aging. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to get the full potential out of your chickens like I've been doing over here for the last 4 or so years. They haven't really laid eggs for 4 years. They began laying in August 2020, so like 3 3/4 years, whatever. Anyways, let's get into it. By the way, 4K before August, as I keep saying, PSA. And I will be doing a live stream every single day during the month of August. Let's see what happens. Okay, so the first really big thing here is stress, and this could be caused by a whole lot of different things. One of them might be from the heat over in your area. Like I know right now in some areas of the country, it is like in the 110s right now. I'm over here in the Northeast where I'm pretty sure it's like 73 degrees right now, so hoping it doesn't really get too hot over here. The chickens overall are pretty resilient towards weather. I'd say below 95 degrees. Once they get above that, then they might begin to lay fewer and fewer eggs. And it's also really important to understand how weather stressors might potentially play a role in how your chickens are acting. So you might have like some chances where like a raccoon gets in there, keeps trying to get into the chicken coop at night. That happens to me, and it keeps trying to get into the feed. However, we hid the feeder from it, so now it's just getting whatever remnants of feed the chickens might have left behind in the day. And there's literal evidence of it on the trail camera over there too. So you can always find a solution to these problems that are like stress related, because like predators, you can like set up a trail camera, set up some like bait or whatever, and like you can find out where the predator is actually going. That's what we personally do over here. Whenever there's like an issue with the chickens, there's like a chicken predator, a potential issue. I feel like here in the Northeast, we're just having a big explosion of raccoons in the last couple of years. I don't know about you. If you're in the Northeast, comment down below. Do you also have some raccoon issues at your house? Because they're getting into the trash, they're getting into the chicken feed, they're trying to get into everything at this point. Pretty soon they're going to try to be getting into the house next to see if there's any treats in the pantry. You never know. The second reason you might not be getting a lot of eggs from your chickens at this current moment in time is because they're hiding the eggs from you. And oh, believe me, I have many stories I could tell about this. But for the sake of keeping this video under 30 minutes long, I'm not going to go like really in depth with it. I'm not going to explain how this one tiny little particle had like this massive effect. No, I'm not going to do all that. It's going to say my chickens hid the eggs from me for like 2 weeks. And once I found a little stash, I started making update videos on shorts, and they blew up. Maybe you might even know me from those shorts. Well, I was explaining how my chicken Puff was laying eggs outside of the chicken yard. And your chickens be doing this too. This might also be sometimes one of your chickens goes missing. You're worried they're gone, and then like 30 days later, they just return for no reason. Like they're just back. Like, yo, what's good, my chickens? I know it was gone for a month, but I don't care. That's what that's one of my chickens did in the farm flock, most likely, is that they probably left and they came back a month later because they were broody and they realized that like they didn't have any issues. They weren't able to go broody because of the fact that flock doesn't have a rooster. I think it's also really important to understand that you should always be hopeful that your chicken went broody somewhere else. But if your chicken doesn't really go broody that much, then yeah, there might be another issue there. But yeah, most of the time it's because your chickens are hiding eggs. A great place to look is an area that's shaded, especially if it's really hot outside. Find like an area that has some shade but also is pretty obvious, and then you can check the more least obvious spots, because that's where your chickens think they're smart and hiding their eggs from you. Another reason might be a calcium deficit. This might be another big reason why you just find yolk in your nesting box. You're like, oh, my chicken's eating my eggs? No, probably not. Half of the time they might be, and the other half of the time it's just that they have a calcium deficit. And it's actually pretty surprisingly easy to fix, and results happen steadily over time, I'd say, from my personal experience. And it's called a little bit something cool called oyster shells. Incorporating that into their diet will help them a whole lot with these issues. And I'm gonna say one thing's for sure, it's that these chickens, they used to lay ton-shellless eggs. However, once we included the right amount of calcium in their diet, they began actually showing some more signs of laying eggs. And the best part about it is that we don't have to clean out the nesting boxes now, because if you don't already know, yolk makes a disaster. If you've accidentally been making eggs in the kitchen and you crack an egg, and instead of landing in the container you're trying to put it in, just lands on the counter or whatever, you already know how big of a pain it is to clean it up. And when chickens lay those eggs on the daily, you know it's a potential issue for them. It's also important to know that if you see your chicken like struggling to lay an egg, I'd recommend taking it up with your vet if it looks really severe, because we've actually saved a chicken's life by doing that once. And it's because they went egg bound. That's a really serious issue they might have. And I haven't had a deadly egg bound case. I've had many deadly egg yolk peritonitis cases here, but we haven't had an issue with that for about 2 years. Hoping and praying that that doesn't happen again. But if that ends up happening, make sure you contact up your local vet office or something like that to see if you can get it checked out. If not, then that's totally up to you. But in my opinion, I probably recommend getting them checked out. And now we move on to an even bigger reason why your chickens might not be laying eggs. It's because they are laying eggs, and in fact, they're fully intact. The only issue is that something's getting in there and stealing those eggs. I kind of covered this a little bit earlier, but I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth. As I said, you can set trail cameras around the area, and this one's especially common if you have your chickens laying eggs in the other areas than their nesting boxes. My pet flock's really good at laying in the nesting boxes, although they decided there's a really great idea to lay eggs directly in the middle of the floor. So if like something like a raccoon or like a snake or something like that were to get into the chicken coop and try to steal those eggs, oh, they steal those eggs. They have no problem getting there. And maybe even snatch a chicken up in that a little bit too, has some fried chicken, you know. 4th of July is right now. No, I'm joking, but like, I'm gonna say one thing, and that if you chickens lay like, other than their nesting boxes, they're at high risk for this. It's a pretty solid solution. You can like box off that area in your chickens or whatever. We used to have an issue where like we actually set up our first nesting box just as a bucket. It wasn't dangerous for the chickens. It was just we didn't really want them laying there. And obviously the chickens got really mad when we took the bucket from them. So it also might be a little bit of retaliation, but I don't really think chickens are that intelligent. But hey, it's happened before and it'll probably happen again. And finally, the one on this list that I really can't sell for you, it's their old age. The only possible way is to get like some newer chickens in there, because once a chicken reaches past a certain point or is going through a molt, then they're not really going to lay that many eggs, especially when they're during a molt. You'll notice at some points in the year, they're laying consistently. And then other days, they're laying about as consistent as my upload schedule back in late 2022, which if you don't know, I think I uploaded like 2 whole videos in the entire month of November. That was pretty bad. That's when they're either molting or they're getting older. You'll notice their egg count per year drops substantially. Usually it could go from like 250 a year to like 110 per year. Once they really get past the age of like 4 or 5. Most chickens that are not layer chickens, those live like 3 to 4 years. Most normal chickens can get like up to 7 or 8 years. I think 12 years is really unrealistic. I think very few chickens actually make it to 12 years. But I have seen some people's chickens live that long, but very few cases. So one of the big reasons your chickens are just getting older, and it might be time to get some new chickens or just retire your chickens. And I mean, hey, I cover a whole lot about retiring chickens in the video that's currently on the screen right now. If you want to skip to that part in the massive 1-hour chicken documentary I posted back in May, I mean, it's great. I'll see you there, man.